Okay, I got a phone call. I had a phone call and I started chipping this while I was talking on the phone. Sorry about that. Yeah, I chipped a little bit of this. Right now, it's kind of like a preform at this stage. Before I go further, it's starting to look like one of those Pinto basins. So I would say this is the preform stage. Yeah, I would say this is. It started as let me start over. This began its life as a preform a little bit ago, a little while ago, but it's definitely a preform now because you can pretty much see where it's going. Yeah. So this is a preform until it gets down to where I put the final edging and finishing. Now, what's the dimensions on this? Yeah, when I was on the phone, I didn't nap too much on it, so don't worry. I just took a few chips off and I said, what am I doing? So it's 2.5. Let's see. Right now, the millimeters on the width. Let's start with 1 centimeter. It's like 22. I can go a lot narrower. I think, what is it, 30 was the widest one, 30 millimeter or 3 centimeters. So I'm within range there. Now I'm going to leave this a little wide so I can put serrations in it, right? But I'm going to take it down a little bit more to thin it down. But the range on the thinness, it can be very thick. It can be like 4:1 or 3:1 with the thickness ratio, all the way down to 8:1. So it has a big range of thicknesses. So you don't have to worry too much about getting it super thin so that it would look right. It has various ranges or various thicknesses. It has a good range. All right. So is everyone good with the sound of the space heater? If it wasn't for that space heater, I would be highly uncomfortable in here. It's down in the 30s. Well, right now it's in the 40s. But it's going to get into the 30s probably before I wrap it up tonight. So I need that space heater. I reviewed the last video where the space heater was on. It wasn't too bad. Yeah. Can you see what I'm doing on this edge? The good thing and bad thing about Obsidian is the edge is easy to nap. It's good because, you know, you can run flakes with no problem. Bad because you get lots of crushing. And sometimes the crushing prevents you from sharpening it. Oops. It's also highly slippery. But yeah, the good thing is you can nap big old nice thinning flakes, bold thinning flakes, very easily. As long as you're careful with the edge. And it is important to grind this way on Obsidian so that the tool will grab the edge. You know, you want to go this way. You do want to have it kind of rough so it will grab the edge. And at the same time, make it rounded off so it's not crushing as you strike it. But as it gets down to the point where you're going to sharpen it, you can't be grinding it anymore. And that's where it gets dicey, because a lot of guys will just dull it like crazy during the final stage of trying to sharpen it. So instead of sharpening it, they actually make it more dull than when they started. Yeah. More dull than the abraded surface? No, not more dull than the abraded surface, but they do one pass on the abraded surface and then they go to sharpen it, and it just gets worse after that one pass. I've seen it happen. Oh yes. And a lot of bites get taken out too, like that, if you try to grab too much of the edge. You don't need to tap very hard to get these flakes to run. So now that I know, see, you got to get at least one bite in order to get your mind set for the limit of the material. And I'm not even covering step fracturing. You don't have to worry too much about step fracturing with obsidian, not like chert, in my opinion. Although some guys have an extremely hard time not step fracturing obsidian. I did have some issue with that in the beginning when I first started knapping, but after a while, obsidian is pretty good when it comes to step fracturing. In my opinion, it's not that bad. But when it does get bad, it gets really bad. If you have a really bad step fracture, and it just, you can't get it from any angle anywhere, it is really bad. It looks terrible. I recommend just starting over. If you get a really bad island in the middle, you've been trying to pick at it, you've been trying to hit it with the spatula tool, you've been trying to run flakes in a sneaky ways, and you still can't get it, just start over. Yep. That's what I recommend on that. Just start over. No sense in trying to rack your brain getting these long thinning flakes on an area that just won't cooperate. Sometimes it's the obsidian itself that has defects that won't allow you to go through. You know, it won't allow you to do what you want. The flakes won't travel. Yeah. So what I'm doing is just preparing the edge. For more strikes. I want to thin it down a little bit more, but not too much more. And I'm doing it with percussion because it's so much easier than with pressure, especially when it comes to the flakes getting into the gloves and stuff. I would have to put my glove on to do pressure. But even when these are new gloves and there's no holes in them, the flakes still go down in this area. I would rather not have gloves when I'm doing delicate work, but I learned my lesson. So I try to use gloves whenever possible. Okay. What lesson was that, you might ask? Well, just over time, you know, you just get tired of having these little flakes get inside your fingers. It gets old. Yeah. It's annoying. And when there's something as simple as just wearing a glove, why not? Simple. Simple Simon. Simon says. What is it doing? Sometimes with this dark, very, very dark obsidian, you don't know if there is unreleased flakes. Yeah, I'm going to thin it down, but not too thin. Not too thin. Alright, that's good. Alright, a little brush break. Brush break. I had a brush, an actual brush. I think it's in the van. Right? I gotta bring my brush back in here. The next stage is going to be pressure flaking and putting in the serrations with a pressure flaker. I'm already done with the indirect percussion and all the percussion that I'm going to be doing on it. Everything else is pressure. Am I moving it too fast? Are my fingers in the way? There's a lot of bold flakes on here. That's one advantage of Obsidian, is the bold flaking capabilities. I can do another bold flake across there. From here, from this edge into that area. Yeah, I suppose I could do one more percussion strike there. It's really not much to the edges. For the new person, they look pretty chaotic. For experienced nappers, a lot of times they don't know what I'm doing. What are you doing? You hitting the edge with a piece of steel? Yep. It didn't work there, see? So they're not wrong. It's just I got to adapt to the steel. How do you adapt to the steel? Mainly downward force. And make sure you're hitting a very well abraded edge. And don't hit too hard. There, I just cleaned that up. There's still a little bit of gooberishness in there, but it's not bad. It looks natural. So it even got some rainbow effects in it. Yeah. So these points were not like really fancy. They're pretty straightforward, and it's a pretty big area where they were found, right? Let's see. Let me see. Come on. Yeah. Big area. And they range in size. Lots of different sizes. So that tells me that either they're grouping together several different types of points, or this point was shared by many tribes, or this point style is very diverse. The people who were making them didn't really care if they were different sizes, or they had specialized uses for each type, or some combination of all of the above. So what is the moral of the story? Moral of the story is, just because I made my Pinto Basin like this doesn't mean that they were all made like this. Okay? Okay. Where is my copper pressure flaker? Alright. Let's see. Some of these flakes are sneaky. I gotta make sure I have no flakes before I put the glove on. Alright. Alright, should I do the base first? Why, yes, I should. Why? It's easier, I think. So I'm just kind of taking off the lumps. I don't know if you can see. I mean, I can't see that well. I don't know if you can see well enough. I gotta take my glove off because I can't control the focus without. I mean, with the glove, I cannot control the focus. So, oh well. Just gotta deal with it. If I get a piece of glass in my hand, just gotta deal with it. And now the flakes are flying up in the air. Yes, indeed. This might be... No, it's not... I was thinking maybe it's too wide, but no. Yeah, I was just now pressure flaking that side. But I'll do some more. On the real ones, I don't know if they made these little minute flakes on the sides or if they were all bold flakes on the sides of the stem. Because on some artifacts you'll see bold flaking on the stem, and some will be like very minute, very intentional, very tiny flakes. Yeah, I know it's redundant. Minute and tiny. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know on this one if they were minute flakes on the base or not. It seemed like they were, but I don't know. From the photographs, from the internet. Seems like there was a lot of flaking going on, and not just a few pop outs. That's kind of wide, right? But I left myself plenty of room for the serrations. It still doesn't look right. Hold on. I think there was a constriction in the base. On the stem. I keep getting those two terms mixed up. I think there was a constriction in the stem, so that these ears stick out a little bit. And then not much on the as far as barbs go. And then some of them had some pretty intense serrations going on. I'm going to assume that some of the specimens I saw were resharpened and smaller than the original pristine versions of this point type. A lot of point types start really wide and then they get worn down as they get resharpened. Alright, so I'll take down the thick spots first and then put the serrations in. Not very big flakes. I'm not concerned with thinning. Unless I get a step fracture somewhere I need to take out. Then I might drive a flake pretty hard. Try to get under the step fracture. Other than that, there's no thinning at this stage. Especially when I drive those flakes with a lot of power, they end up bouncing everywhere. Up into my face. So I'm not pushing these flakes in at this stage. I'm just popping downward. If there's a stiff fracture like that, or some weird area like this, I might dull it and then push a big old flake into that area, but it doesn't look too bad, so I'm not going to worry about it. Making them look too clean makes them look too artificial, in my opinion. And me personally, I would never buy an arrowhead that looks too clean. And I'm not just saying that because I don't make clean ones. The reason why I don't make clean ones is because I don't like them. I try to clean them up a little bit. And I don't like big step fractures. But as far as perfect flaking, I would never buy an arrowhead with perfect flaking unless I wanted a replica of a real artifact that has perfect flaking. Does that mean I would never buy a arrowhead off the flake over grind guys? From one of those guys? I don't know. I think it would depend on the arrowhead itself. Does it look like something that was real, or does it look modern? I don't think I'd buy a completely modern looking one. That's just me. I don't have any, well, I shouldn't say that. I probably do have a couple really nice flake over grind points. I know I have at least one. I just thought of one. Nice flake over grind with perfect flaking. But that was a gift. So I just peck at it until I don't see any little white powdery areas. And if you find yourself pecking and pecking and pecking and you still have white powdery areas, switch over to a spatula tool to take these flakes off. Or make your copper or whatever tip you're using a lot more pointy. And just persnickety it all the way down and get rid of those white powdery areas. They can be jaggedy, but those jagged edges are extremely sharp. Don't worry about it being jagged. That's extremely sharp. Okay. It's probably too wide, but oh well. Serration time. I could probably put that in with the copper tip. Yeah, because I remember the serrations are not really tiny on these. If I use that other tool, that steel spatula tool, right now it's sharpened a lot, so I can't really do big pop outs with it. I want to do some big pop outs for these. I seem to remember the serrations were a little bit pronounced and crude on these, and not really delicate and well made. They're just quickly put in there. So just pop out in between with the clean pop outs. Try not to blow away the points of the serrations, which is not easy. Like I blew away some of these points in here. Right there and right there. I keep getting. All right. I don't know how far up these go. It doesn't go up too far, right? If you do the pop outs in between cleanly, the edges of these serrations are very, very sharp. If you're stalling if you are stalling, let's see, hold on. Focus. Put the glove on. Make sure that the arrowhead doesn't lose the little yellow square. And here we go. Yeah, try not to stall in between these serrations. Don't stall the notches, because then you'll get frustrated and you'll see a lot of white powdery areas. And you'll go, that doesn't look right. It's supposed to be nice clean pop outs in between. Some of those edges are very, very thin. That's what you want, because I think that's why they put them in there. See what I mean? You don't want any stalls in between, but you want the tips of those serrations to be thin. And no thick spots. It's hard to see. Yeah. You don't want any thick spots on the serrations, right? Right. Okay. All right. So that's it. It didn't say the bases were ground, I don't think. I think this is a late archaic. Let me see. See, I already got damage. Is there something in? There's probably something in there. I'll get it out later. All right, what's the time period? Middle archaic. Okay. It doesn't say anywhere that the stem is ground. The base is concave to bifurcated. So here we go. Let's see. I was going for this one. The one in the picture is more pointy. So I can make it more pointy if you want. Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can get that glass out of my finger. I think I got it out. I just rubbed it on the pant leg. Okay. Let's make the point more pointy. And I'll use a spatula tool. And I'm just going to push downward. Now it doesn't matter. I usually, the edge is already facing this way. Let's see, going upward, like, I mean, the center line on this side is upward, so I start by making it worse, if you know what I mean. That's why I kind of flipped it over, so I can keep going in that direction to lift the edge more than it already is. And just push downward. See, you don't see a lot of you don't see any white powdery areas. I just push downward, and then when I have that, I will grind a little bit for the pass to make it more narrow. Just a little bit. Okay, just barely. Okay, and then push the other way. Downward. Maybe just a tad inward. Okay, and there's supposed to be not much powdery area, right? I don't see a lot of white powdery spots, although there is a few areas. One right there, one there, one there, where you can see the undetached step fractures or undetached little flakes. You can go back and persnickety those out of there by just pushing another flake off. See, I pushed the flake off there. See that big bulb there? And then go down a little bit further. I'm scratching upward to make it dull, and then push another one down. It's all downward. They'll travel inward a little bit, but the force is downward. And what I'm trying to do is just make the edge thin, so it's good for cutting. Just take out those pop-out flakes. And it thins down the edge. Okay, other side, same deal. Downward. It's really easy to ruin the edge at this stage. By making it too thick. When you reduce it, if you have to reduce the shape or make it more narrow, it's really easy to make it really, really dull right now. But if you just use the spatula tool and push downward, nothing special about it. Just push downward and a little bit inward. You shouldn't get any powdery areas. And you should see it thin down enough. And if you see a thick spot, you can just push another flake off. In whichever direction. To get it thin down and sharp again. There's a thick spot right here. Come on. There's a thick spot here. I could run a flake in there from maybe right here into this, and then one from here into that area. But I don't need to mess with it, I don't think. No, I don't need to, but I'm going to. Scratch it a little bit. Yeah, I can't capture this on film. I don't know if I can show you. Just scratch it upward, up, and then push downward on it. I did that all through the viewfinder so you could see what I was seeing. And I ran a flake here. That flake right there, I think that was it, or it was this one, I don't know for sure. Anyway, I don't know how much that helped. Anyway, I can't see through the viewfinder, so I'll have to do this next one off to the side. Oops. Did I do it? I tried to pop off a large flake. It did go in that area. I don't know how much good it did. It took a bite out. I don't know if that's a step fracture or what right there. I think there's a step fracture there, so it didn't do much good to try to pop a big flake inward with the spatula tool. It could also be an internal crack issue extending from this side. I don't know. I'm overthinking it. This is also a spatula tool, by the way. All right. I'm messing with this a lot just in case some of you guys mess with it a lot too, right? I know you do. Nothing wrong with messing with it a lot if it looks right. if it ends up looking right. Golly, that's leaking like crazy. Here we go. All right, I'll stop messing with this. I can see a couple of thick spots, but I'm not going to mess with it. Okay. Alrighty. I don't know if maybe I didn't get the glass out. Yeah, that's probably it. I probably didn't get the glass out. Alright, so I'll figure that out after I stop the video. There you go. Pinto Basin. At least my version of it. Let's see. Alrighty.